So I have a handful of Bigfoot encounter reports from the state of Montana today, the big sky country. One of them, a tow truck driver, is out at 1 in the morning picking up a car that hit a bull elk. Killed the bull elk. The bull elk is sitting on the side of the road, and all of a sudden it turns around and there's a Bigfoot dragging the bull elk through 3 feet of snow with one arm. I won't tell you anymore. I'll wait till we get to the video for you guys to hear the rest of the story, but imagine that. So if you're new to the channel, thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button. Let's get to it.
Gallatin County, Montana, June 1993. 2 friends and I were backpacking in the summer of 1993. We were going to hike the Gallatin Divide that summer, one weekend at a time. We started south of Bozeman and planned to finish in Yellowstone later that summer. This was our 3rd weekend, and it being a Sunday, we were hiking out to our car, which was parked at the Portal Creek access. It was getting late in the day, and it looked like some weather was rolling in. We were coming down the west side of the Windy Pass, so we decided to double time it so we weren't exposed to the weather. We didn't make it to the tree line before a storm hit us. The wind was howling, and a nasty mix of rain and hail came down on us. When we were well enough below the tree line, we decided to sit out the storm by this rock outcropping. Wind whipping through the hills, especially in a rocky area like this, has a very distinct sound. But it seemed like there was something else in that howl, something that didn't quite sound like it was part of the wind. No one commented on it, but I could tell how my friends were looking around that they had heard it too. After about 45 minutes, the wind died down a bit and only a slight drizzle was falling. We started hiking back down. The clouds were clearing and it looked like we were going to get a good view of the sun setting over the Spanish Peaks. We were coming through this clearing that had been cut maybe 10 years ago. The sun was almost out of sight when we heard some thrashing across the clearing. It could have been almost anything, but since we were in bear country, my friend took out his .357. Not enough to stop a determined grizzly, but it was better than nothing. We proceeded slowly across the clearing. It was maybe 100 yards to an older tree line with a lot of scrub and young pines in between. I was looking up for circling birds above carrion when I heard this howl. It sounded like what I had heard earlier, but now the wind was not behind it. It sent a chill up my spine. My friend who was behind me yelled something to the effect of "Holy sh!" and pointed off to our right. Something massive and dark and clearly running on 2 legs ran through the brush about 60 yards away and disappeared into the forest. I don't think any of us moved or spoke for about 5 minutes until we heard the howl again, this time pretty far off and in the opposite direction that we were heading. Needless to say, we got out of there in a hurry. We didn't tell too many people about this when we got back to town. We did return back to Portal Creek access the next weekend to start our hike again, and I've been back to that area several times since, hunting or just out of curiosity, and I've never heard or seen anything unusual again.
So you're backpacking through the woods and you run into a Bigfoot creature. Like say you're walking through these woods right here and you run into a Bigfoot creature. What's gonna be your response? Like, you're with your friends, at least you're not by yourself. I don't know. Curiosity might get me on that one. If I'm with my friends, I might try to stick around and watch. But I don't know. A lot of these reports that I read, people just get this sense of fear. But then on other reports, it's like they didn't feel threatened at all. So I guess it comes down to the Bigfoot and its personality. Like I always say, it's kind of like a dog or a person. Like some dogs you can go up to and pet. Some dogs, if you try to, they're gonna snap your hand off, right? They're gonna bite your hand off. Same thing with a person. Some people can be really nice, and some people you don't even want to talk to or be around. I think the Bigfoot have personalities just like that, just like any other creature. So it really depends on the one you walk up onto, or the one that walks up on you, right?
Phillips County, Montana, January 2011. It was in the winter of 2010-2011 at about 1 a.m. I was out on a wrecker call north of the Missouri River about a mile. I was loading a car onto my truck when I heard a deep grunt. I turned with my flashlight and looked behind me, and almost 100 feet behind me was an upright walking creature dragging the dead elk that the car I was towing had hit down the side of a hill. It was about 40 below zero. I was cold and scared, so I loaded up and got back to town. Here's the follow-up investigative report. The investigator spoke to the witness, and the witness gave clear description of what he had witnessed. He stated that he had to fill his truck before leaving Malta, Montana to respond to the call of a car hitting an elk which came in at around 11:30. As he was leaving, he noticed the temperature on the bank said it was 40 degrees below zero. When he arrived at the accident scene, he met a state trooper and the owners of the car who were waiting for him with the squad's lights flashing. He then helped the trooper pull the young bull elk, a 3x3, off the road as it was in the middle. The trooper then took the car's owners into town. The witness then backed his roll-top wrecker with the lights flashing up to the car, hooked it up, and began to load it. As he was standing on the passenger side of the truck operating the roll-top, he heard a deep grunt. He then grabbed his flashlight and looked back to where the elk was laying and saw a 7.5 foot to 8 foot large brown, graying, hairy beast dragging the elk one-handed by the antlers down the ditch into the coulee. He stated that it looked like a bodybuilder but much larger, with broad shoulders, long arms, and a big square flat face. He said that it was hair covered, about 2 inches long, with what appeared to be a beard that was about 5 inches long. The eyes were about 5 inches apart and reflected his flashlight in a whitish color similar to that of a deer in the headlights. He stated that it did not appear to be in a hurry. It had a hold of the elk, and when he shined the light on it, it turned and looked at him and continued dragging the elk away through around 3 feet of snow. He said the feet never cleared the top of the snow, but it did not appear that it had any problem as it dragged the elk off. He guessed the encounter lasted about 15 seconds and it had dragged the elk around 100 feet before he lost sight of it. He did call the trooper when he returned to town and told him what had happened. The trooper acted as if he did not believe him. The family has a very good reputation in the community, and I believe he is very credible.
So how would you have reacted if you're a tow truck driver out at night in the wilderness? Well, I mean, it was on a road, but not a very populated area. And you turn around where the dead elk is that the car hit, and there's a massive Bigfoot grabbing it and dragging it away with one arm through 3 feet of snow. I mean, you're out there all alone by yourself. Like, I would have been just like the tow truck driver. It's time for me to get up out of here. I'll come back the next day and check it out, but out here by myself. Although the Bigfoot probably didn't want anything to do with the tow truck driver, he probably just wanted the food from the elk. But still, that'd have to be a crazy situation, right? Can you imagine how strong that Bigfoot has to be to pull a bull elk through 3 foot of snow with one arm? Like, that's just strength on a whole nother level. I mean, dragging a bull elk, and I don't know how much they weigh, but I'm sure over 1,000 pounds with one arm. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But the strength is like mind-blowing.
Lewis and Clark County, Montana, June 1982. It all started in the summer of 1982. Mount St. Helens had erupted earlier, about a year or so before. Myself and my cousin, my brother, and a family friend decided we would go hiking. Me and my friend were both 15 at the time, and my cousin was 14, and my brother was 13. We went into the woods carrying nothing but BB guns. We couldn't see anything at the time, but I had been hiking in these woods about 5 years by myself or with my brother, and I never had a care in the world. This included a run-in with a grizzly. I felt as if we were being watched. For some reason, the hair on the back of my neck even stood up. We couldn't see anything at the time, so we continued on. Well, a thunderstorm started in, and we started back towards my cabin. I guess we had gone out about 2 miles before we had to start back. I still felt as if something or someone was watching us. I just knew it. But whatever it was did not make a sound, nor would it let us see it. Well, we kept on, and finally we heard something in the woods ahead of us. We stopped, and to be honest, we were scared. So we stayed put for a while and just listened. Well, the noise stopped, and we continued back towards the cabin, this time a little faster than normal. Well, when we finally broke out of the woods, about 400 yards from the cabin, I looked towards the end of the wood line and I saw a figure standing up and looking at us. My friend also saw it, as well as my cousin and my brother. It was black in color and looked to be at least 6 foot tall. It was about 200 yards away from us, so we did not know if it was a bear. We all went back to the cabin and told our parents what had happened, and they had no explanation for it. My mother grew up there and she had no idea. 2 days later, we got brave enough again, and on a bright sunny day, our same group headed out into the same area. Well, we got about 300 yards in the woods and we came upon a footprint. It was in the mud and well formed like a human print. I wear a size 12 shoe since I was about 12 years old, and I put my foot into the print and it was a good 4 to 6 inches longer than mine and a lot wider. I knew what a bear print looks like, as well as prints from the various animals in the area, and a bear print was as close as I could come up with. But it had more human-like toes, not the long claws that you would see with a bear. Well, we decided to get the heck out of the area. We then walked back out of the woods and back towards the cabin. Instead of walking the area of the wood line, we took a path across the field. All of a sudden, my friend stopped and tried to speak. He almost turned pale white, and he could not talk. He pointed into an area in the woods. I finally saw what he saw. Sitting on an old tree stump about 5 yards into the woods was what I believed to be a Bigfoot. We were only 50 yards away from him and I could see clearly it sat there looking at us. And well, it looked in another direction while we were staring at it, and it was like he did not have a neck. He moved his whole upper torso and then looked back at us. Well, when he did this, we all took off running. I am now a police officer and have been for many years, and I still have never been as scared as I was that very minute. When we got to the cabin, we told my friend's parents as well as my mom what we saw and what had happened. Well, my friend's dad got his pistol, and I got my dad's 7mm deer rifle, and we went back out. It was me, my friend's dad, and my friend. We all went back into the wooded area and looked around for about an hour or so and found nothing. We then proceeded back out of the woods the same way as we did when we saw this thing on the stump. Well, I looked up towards the cabin and I saw my mom. She was waving her hands and yelling, so I waved back. Well, you have to know my mom. She does not, and I repeat, does not run for anything. Well, she took off in a sprint towards us, and when she got to about 100 yards from us, she yelled that the creature was behind us. Well, I turned and looked with my dad's rifle, and I saw the back of the creature just for a second go into the woods. We then went back to the cabin and reported this to the local game and fish department. They responded later that evening, and we took the game warden to see where we were at. We could not find the print we had seen earlier, and I think he thought we were nuts. Well, about the time we were coming back out, we found a bush that had been laid flat as if something had been sleeping there, and it smelled really bad. This was the only time I smelled anything. It smelled like real bad body odor mixed with urine and feces. Well, we did not find any more evidence. I have been back in the area many times. I do not go out without a rifle, but would not shoot this creature. I feel that if this creature was harmful towards me, it could have killed me many times in the woods. We did have some people come from another state about a week later and ask if we were the ones who did the reports, and we told them no. I don't want a bunch of gun-toting idiots out there trying to hurt this thing. The way I figure is, it had been out there a lot longer than me, and I need to respect its home.
So once again, a Bigfoot sighting by a bunch of boys. I don't know, there's got to be something to that where the Bigfoot isn't as fearful about young adults as they are adults. Seems to me that they let their guard down a lot around, younger kids. I think there's something to that. It's hard to say though, but according to the reports that I'm reading, there's a lot of sightings by younger kids, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13 years old. Maybe that's the key, huh? So just imagine hiking in the woods with your buddies. You're 12, 13, 14 years old, and you run up on a Bigfoot. How would you react? What would you have done? Would you have booked out of there as fast as you could? Would you have stuck around, check it out? I don't know. At that age, I remember when I was 13, 14, 15, I was pretty adventurous, but I wasn't stupid either, If I felt something was a danger to me, I don't think that I would have stuck around. There's a little chipmunk, I don't know if you can see it. There's chipmunks running all over the place down here.
Park County, Montana, July 1999. I was driving east on Highway 90 between Livingston and Bozeman, Montana. It was about 7:30 a.m. Montana has long stretches of road, and we had been driving for quite a while. I happened to glance up to the right of the road and couldn't believe what I saw. A very large reddish-brown animal was walking upright about 125 yards from the side of the road. It was very large. I don't know exactly how big or how much it could have weighed, but I do know the hands of the animal hung to about the tops of the fence post as it was walking next to. Those posts are about 3 to 4 feet of exposed post. There were 2 of us who saw this creature walking. After we passed it, I said, "What the heck was that?" My friend responded by saying, "I don't know what you saw, but it looked like Chewbacca to me." Instead of pulling over and continuing to watch the creature or flag someone down to see it for themselves, we just kept on driving. I will never forgive myself for this, and if I ever have another encounter, I will definitely act differently. I now live in Portland, Oregon, the heart of Sasquatch country. This sighting has provoked an interest in me to find out what is out there. I know something is out there. I have begun my own expeditions into the local wilderness as I know an encounter is basically chance, and this area has been flooded with Sasquatch sightings. The Skookum cast is especially interesting, and I hope it brings some credibility to the search. Here's a follow-up investigative report. On August 20th, 2001, the investigator called the witness, who was the driver of the van, when he and one other passenger observed this animal walking in 1999. Where did this incident occur? We were eastbound on US Highway 90 between Livingston and Bozeman, Montana. What date did this take place? During the summer of 1999. Do you remember the month? I think it was in July. Was it day or night? Early morning, about 7:30 a.m. Describe the area in which this incident occurred. It was walking towards us on the south side of the highway in a rolling foothill area. It was a low brush area. Whereabout in Montana did this happen? On the south side of US 90, about 12 miles east of Bozeman, Montana. Near what area? I believe it was in the Bozeman Pass area. What distance would you estimate you were from this thing when you first saw it? The animal was about 100 to 150 yards from us, heading in a westerly direction. What was your first reaction? I did a double take because what I was seeing was so out of place. What was it doing? It, the animal, was walking towards us down a fence line. It was taking very long strides. Were you alone when you first saw this? No. There were several of us in the van, but only 2 of us were awake. The other eyewitness was in the passenger seat, and he saw it first. And his first words were, "Did you see that?" He said it looked like Chewbacca. Did it stand or walk on 2 legs? Yes, that's all I seen it do. It was walking very fast with giant strides, and its arms swayed in a rhythmic manner. Did you ever see it go down on all 4s? No. Was it covered in hair? Definitely. What color was it? It looked reddish brown, and it stood out from the background because the background was a light tan color. How tall would you estimate this thing to have been? It was between 8 feet and 9 feet tall. I was using the fence as a guide. What would you estimate its weight to have been? It looked to be about 400 to 600 pounds, but I am only estimating. Did you see any facial features? No, the main thing that I noticed was its head and upper body seemed to be one, like it had no neck, and I noticed the arm and leg movements as it walked. Could you describe any facial features? No, because I was not that close to observe such things. Did you observe any ears? No, no ears observed. Could you describe the arms? They seemed long. I was judging them against the fence post. I remember that the top of the hands were at the top of the fence post. Could you tell if it was a male or female? I could not discern its sex at that distance. About for how long did you see it? Only about 5 to 7 seconds. Did it ever make any noise? No, we were moving down the road at about 70 miles an hour. Did it ever make any animal sounds from its mouth? Again, no. Did it see you? I don't think so. It seemed not to be concerned with us or anybody else that was on that highway. Did you smell anything? We were moving too fast to smell anything. Did you check for footprints? We never stopped or went back, but I now wish we had gone back or at least stopped and watched it a little longer. Did you report what you saw, like to your parents or agency? No, but I did tell some friends. What was their response? They just thought that I was crazy. In your own words, describe what happened. We were just driving eastbound on Highway 90, about 12 miles out of Bozeman, Montana. We observed this animal walking towards us along a fence line, about 125 yards out. I have never seen anything like it before or since.
So are you enjoying this format? I hope so, because I am. Hopefully YouTube will pick it up, the algorithm, and give me a little love. Just a little love, just a little bit. So I'm getting subscribers telling me they're not getting notified. So what you do is you hit that bell and then click it off to none, and then click it back onto all, and that should help the issue, and you should get notified whenever I put out some videos. I'm trying to put out videos at least every other week, a lot of times every week. I'm trying to get back to being consistent and putting videos out there for you guys to enjoy. All right, so I guess that's where we're gonna leave it. Thanks for joining me. If there's anybody new to the channel, welcome. We really appreciate it. Come on back. You're more than welcome to come back anytime you like. I'm gonna be putting videos out every week or two to get back into a rhythm, and I'm going to be bringing you exhilarating, terrifying Bigfoot sighting encounter reports. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and until next time, always remember, where there is a WILLSTAR, there is definitely a way. And we will talk to you guys later. WILLSTAR out.